Well, welcome everyone to this new SaaS Masters podcast. Today I have a very special guest who couldn't make it at the housewarming. She had a poor excuse, but she can explain that herself. But I'm very pleased to introduce you to KaraLynn.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So tell me a bit about yourself, and not like the boring business part, but the more fun. Like, who is KaraLynn?
The more personal stuff. Well, as you can probably hear, I'm Canadian. Originally from the east coast of Canada. I've been in the Netherlands now for almost 9 years. So kan ook een beetje Nederlands.
Wow.
But in business, I usually stick to English. I really like to travel. So that's also why my excuse for missing the housewarming was that I was traveling in Southeast Asia. So also coming back from a little bit of a sabbatical, but...
and a honeymoon.
Yeah. And a honeymoon as well. Yeah.
That's kind of a good excuse.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's fair enough.
It was worth it. So now I'm setting off my summer with a tan. So that's always a good thing.
Super cool. So glad to know that. And you're enjoying Amsterdam?
I love it. Yeah.
What's the biggest difference between like Dutch and Canadian mentality?
I would say the directness is probably
why does it always come up
the
first?
biggest? Yeah, because Canadians are also very polite. Yeah. So not to say necessarily indirect, like Canadians are also, I think, very genuine. That's sometimes maybe a misconception. Indirect doesn't mean ingenuine, but definitely I've had some shockers, just things that you're not expecting. It's definitely can be jarring, but after 9 years, I feel like I'm also probably maybe more direct than I was. But I also came from the UK. I lived there 2 years before I moved to Amsterdam. And the British culture, I would say, is even maybe a little bit more polite, let's call it. Like when you say interesting, it actually means not interesting, which I had to learn, because I always say, oh, that's really interesting. And people are like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. Like, thanks.
Yeah.
You basically were insulting people out of the goodness of your heart.
Exactly. Yeah. I was really intrigued, and they're thinking, oh man, I'm failing right now.
So 8 years in Amsterdam now, right?
Yeah. That's
a fun time. And did you come here starting, because like now I'm going to jump to the boring work part, but like, did you start here directly as, SaaS partnerships, all that stuff, or? Not
partnerships. So the partnerships thing came out very organically. So I originally moved here because I got a job in SaaS. I really wanted to work in SaaS. I had been in recruitment before, and I really wanted to move towards the technology space because I thought it was really cool. I have a commercial background, so I started actually as an account executive at a company called Binder.
Yeah.
And at that time I was, talking to leads, talking to customers, and a lot of the times they were asking me, do you have this sort of functionality? And I would have to say, no, we don't. But I actually know of another company that does. Maybe you should go to them. And I thought, well, if I'm sending these customers to that company, maybe they could be sending customers to me.
Yeah.
So that kind of hatched the idea of what this could mean. And then just very luckily at that time, Binder was kind of exploring building a marketplace. So I threw my hand up, and then what began as a side project turned into building Binder's first partner ecosystem, first partner program. So that's how it was born. There. Yeah, exactly. And then I caught the bug and never stopped. So I just, kept on building partnership programs from company to company, and then eventually decided, okay, I'll do that for myself.
Let's do it. Yeah, because I was also curious about that. Like, there's one thing to become a partner manager, and you can roll into that, like you say, with an example like this. Still quite rare though, but what made you make the change to then, like, I want to just do this for a living. I just want to establish partner programs and move on. Or it sounds so bad, but
no, but it's true. And that's the thing, because I was starting, I would always get a little bit bored once I had a really good partner launch, once the program was kind of running a little bit. I'm much more of a builder and not so much of a manager and grower. And so I thought, okay, rather than get a new job every time that things are a little bit established, I would rather just do that on a project basis. And it lends itself really well, because then I can work with more than one company at one time. That was also always a problem for me, that I could see so many opportunities in the outside world, but I was representing a company. So I think for me personally, the variety, the ability to help more companies, and the ability to just grow my own business was really attractive. And that's why I made the jump.
And how long ago was that?
Basically 2 years. I don't know the exact day of when I launched. I'll have to check it, but it's basically 2 years. I think it was
2 years.
June 2023. So
Okay.
happy anniversary to Partnership Advisory.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Well, congratulations.
Yeah,
I think it's a
thanks.
really relevant move, right? I think, I wrote down a statement here and I want to hear your thoughts around that. Like, I really feel that partner programs are an kind of, let's do it next year kind of thing for a lot of SaaS companies, right? Like everybody feels always when you talk about it, yeah, it might be something for us. Yeah, we need to do something with that. Or like I hear a lot of SaaS companies talking about the potential, but I see little SaaS companies, doing or executing on that. And I wonder, what would your thoughts be on like, why do people keep postponing this?
Yeah, so the lack of urgency is a big problem that also doesn't go away once you actually have partnerships rolling. There's always, somebody's having a busy quarter, something like that. It's different from a lot of other roles or departments where urgency isn't necessarily automatic because it's really a long-term plan. So you don't do partnerships for tomorrow, you do it for next year. So that's something that can be really difficult to begin with because that instant gratification is not there. And you don't really see immediate results even if you do invest. So if you try it out a little bit, partnerships programs can often take 18 months, for example, to really start delivering that repeatable revenue. And of course, if you don't invest, which many companies also don't really go for it from the beginning, you get less out of it and therefore it's seen sort of as a failure. So I think that's definitely a common pitfall, actually. Part of the reason why they postpone it, but also part of the reason why sometimes there's a little bit of dabbling, but not really enough return to dive in. So it's a chicken and egg situation a little bit. And actually, where I come in, it's the uncertainty as well. So people say, okay, I see that, partner programs are going to give me 70% conversion rate or 33% higher annual contract value, but they're just not sure how to do it and therefore are a little bit afraid to dip their toes in. So that's also where I like to think that I can help because I can actually help them. Okay, this is best practice. This is what works. This is what doesn't. Avoid this speed bump, avoid this roadblock, and hopefully get them on the right track and therefore seeing results a lot faster than they might otherwise.
Yeah, because I would argue like, a lot of people, what I see at least is a lot of SaaS companies, when they start with a SaaS, with a partnership program is that they start out by transferring an AE or customer success manager like you try and do this partnership thing, or sometimes a marketeer that got out of hand with like, affiliate marketing or whatever. And like you do partner programs now. And do you think it requires a different discipline or skill set or like a different recruitment from the very get-go to get it really started right away? Yeah,
definitely. It doesn't necessarily have to be a different like a new hire. It can also be, somebody who's really hungry or a marketer, as you say, who's interested in doing something else. But I think that it is a certain profile, and the main thing about partnership people is that they wear a lot of hats. So you have to kind of be dabbling in marketing. You have to be commercial to a degree. A lot of the times you need a little bit of product knowledge. And essentially you do, maybe the most important thing is that you have to have a bit of a strategic mindset. And that's very difficult to find in one person. It's essentially an entrepreneur, is what it is. Partnerships is very entrepreneurial, particularly when you're the first person. But that's also another issue that I try to approach with my business, because you usually have one of two things, which is either that sort of junior or meteor person that's tasked with it. They're really excited. Hopefully they're not someone transferred for the wrong reasons, but they're really excited. They're really hungry. They want to do a lot, but they don't really have that seasoned strategic ability to really choose where to put their efforts. And they end up spreading themselves too thin. And, the new things coming around and they just keep having good conversations, but nothing actually gets done. Or you have on the other side a very seasoned strategic professional, but then they're focused mainly on doing strategy and not actually doing the work as it is. So where I try to come in is I do a little bit of both strategy and execution. So whatever is necessary in that sense. But a lot of the time, paired with somebody who is really that face of the company, the partner manager on the ground, as long as they have a little bit of direction, they're able to take it and run with it. And that's where a fractional model can be very effective.
Yeah, no, that completely makes sense indeed. Because I'm thinking also like the combination between a hungry person and somebody that's thinking, okay, it might take me 18 months to get results, is really like, how do you find it within one person? I mean, what kind of role is that normally, if you would like handpick one from a lineup of typical SaaS roles?
Strategic accounts, I would say. Yeah. So whether it's more customer success based or more sales, you don't want an instant gratification hunter and you don't just want a relationship manager. You have to have a little bit of both. But I would say when you have those kind of standout people with that strategic mindset of, okay, this is how we can grow in 3 years' time. These are the customers that we can approach. Those are really the people that are going to be finding those ways. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's also, you see a lot of really successful account executives, they're partnership people. Yeah. They're the ones saying, I've got a consultant that I know well, and we have coffee every quarter and he gives me leads, or whoever it may be. Or, they know to call the sales rep at the other SaaS company, and that's how they get their leads. So they're doing their own business development. It's really a business development method, but partnerships is just another maybe kind of discipline or focused area of business development.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, interesting. So we talked a bit about why that it gets postponed regularly, right? That it's not always like priority number one. And I think part of it is you're right? Especially startups are focused on the, let's get revenue now kind of things, because we need the cash, we need to fund our own business, we want to become cash flow positive, all valid reasons. Yeah. But I think, I think you need to have something in your planning around your commercial guidance or your go-to-market, where you say, I'm going to focus 80% of my time on the cash now kind of things, and 20% on the things that will also help me scale in the coming years. So I think partnerships are a great thing for that. But how many, do you have any, I don't know, any guidance on how many SaaS companies actually have partnership programs? Like a ratio, is it 10% of the SaaS companies?
It's tough to say. I think now it's definitely increasing. So 5 years ago, or maybe 10 years ago now, it was really the platform companies, and then most other SaaS companies were going direct. Whereas now I would say 75% thereabouts are at least considering it or think it's an important part of their go-to-market plan for the coming years. But the question is, are those companies then doing a serious effort, or is it something that they're exploring? It's a little bit murky still in that sense of what the definition of that is. But luckily, and I'm very happy to see this, is you see SaaS companies really cluing into, okay, we can't go it alone. We really need to tap into our ecosystem, whether it's because customers can't survive without integrations, whether it's because they need additional delivery capacity, or just whether they see, okay, we can't knock on all the doors, so we need to work with our partners in order to expand our reach or enter new markets or whatever it may be. That's really becoming more normal, which of course, it changes the market a little bit because it makes it more competitive in a sense to partner with other companies. But it's definitely nice to see SaaS companies in particular being more partner friendly in that regard. Exactly.
So, it's good to see that increase then, but I'm also curious, is it relevant for every single SaaS company? I don't know. Is it relevant? Could every SaaS have a partnership program?
Yes, with a caveat. So I think, yes, it's the same. Can every person have friends? Yes, of course. You can always work together. Together is better. But I would say that there is a time and a place, and also that you have to be very careful with choosing the right fit. So another common pitfall, let's say, is that companies, a SaaS company with 50 people will say, look at HubSpot, they do it really well, let's build that. And that's, or even let's partner with them right away. And that's not necessarily always the right fit for everybody, because if you're a company that looks nothing like HubSpot, their tactics aren't necessarily going to work for you from day one. So it's important to make sure that you're choosing the right partners. And that doesn't even mean individual partners. It can also mean categories. For example, one company can be really successful with agency service partners that are delivering, maybe doing the implementation of their software, whereas another company may have 0 implementation partners and be really focused on technology partners for a different reason than that other company might be. So it's very nuanced in the sense partnerships are not all created equal. And I think timing is a question that I get a lot of, when should I start? And partnerships can be effective from day one because, for example, companies that align themselves within a technology ecosystem, like if I want to build on Shopify, then my partnership strategy is part of my product strategy, actually. But most of the time when you're looking at a typical partner program, you want to make sure that you have product market fit, because having flagship customers that you can join forces with partners, and also the credibility that you need to have to recruit partners is usually best positioned after you have product market fit. And then of course you already have your sales, you're keeping the lights on already. And it's a little bit easier to focus on those long-term investments as opposed to just getting the customers in and also figuring out who you can best serve.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's another thing I often see is partnerships or partnership program actually are usually born from the thought what's in it for me? Right? So they focus on we could get more leads if we do this, or we can get more publicity, or we.
Yeah.
Maybe it's natural for a human being to start with that. I don't know. But I think that's one thing that makes some partnership programs fail, is because it's too much from that part. What do you encounter in the market when you get that? Because I'm assuming sometimes you enter a building, they ask you for some advice or whatever, and there's this presentation. I am assuming that this is the market and these are some of the partners and we can get 20% more leads. What do you encounter and what is your advice? Yeah,
I think it's really partnerships is, it's not recent, but the way SaaS partnerships are being done now is a fairly recent development. And again, it evolved from SaaS being very direct sales focused and those companies being very successful to now being a little bit more ecosystem driven. Yeah. But a lot of the time when people when the executives or whoever's looking after it doesn't have partnerships experience or doesn't have that sort of mindset, you see direct sales principles being applied to partnerships. So knock on the door of every partner and eventually one will happen. And that is true. But the problem is that there isn't a transaction at this partnership. There's a signing date, which is a little bit of a false KPI. I think you need to have it, but it's not necessarily going to drive revenue for you. No. So therefore, although there is worth in saying, it's a volume game, what really matters in partnerships is making sure you have that really right fit, that you're well aligned, and also that you invest in developing, activating, and going deep with that partnership. So in that sense, even though some tactics can have overlap, the direct sales principles of just keep knocking, keep asking, and eventually it will work aren't necessarily the most successful. It's actually about finding who is your compatible partner, making sure that you know how to motivate them, which usually isn't asking for leads for yourself. No. So really identifying how you can mutually make that partnership work, and investing there from both sides is going to drive more success than just, asking.
Yeah, exactly. And do you also, is that like an ideal partner profile, ICP, IPP? Is that kind of what narrows it down? So you look for what does a good partner for us look like? When do they benefit from us and when do we benefit from them? Yeah,
I think those are a few things that really show what a good partner is going to be, or a predictor of success, for example. Having value for the customer, of course, that comes first always, because if your customer is not getting value from not only the both of you, but the both of you together, it's not going to work, because the customer is the one who's paying the bill for both of you. So in that sense, that's the most important thing. But then also looking at what's the value for the partner. The partner has to be benefiting. And oftentimes, if you are able to impact the partner's bottom line, so that's not just giving them a 10% commission fee on their referral, but it's really about, am I giving these partners leads? Am I impacting the revenue of that partner in a significant way? Am I driving new opportunities to the partner? That's what really moves the needle in the partnership and gets them engaged. And that's also a very key thing with sales. You can say that, customers of course have to be engaged, but at the end of the day, they just have to pay the bill. Yeah. With partnerships, if you don't have that engagement, it can be perfect. It can be the perfect fit. It can be the most ideal partner you could ever have.
Everything on paper works.
Everything on paper works, but if they won't call you back, it's done. Yeah. So that's a lot of stars have to align in that sense. Yeah,
exactly. Okay, good. So, let's say now I'm a SaaS company today. I don't have a name yet, but that's fine. I will fix that with Chamber of Commerce later. But I'm a SaaS company. I do 5 million euros revenue annually. And I want to establish a partnership program, and I take 2 years to make a successful one. So I'm realistic in terms of managing my expectations.
That's very good.
But I'm completely useless in most things, but also in partnerships. So I bring in KaraLynn, and what is can you guide me through kind of a common process for you, like meet the teams, point to everything that's ugly, and say everything is stupid, and then you move on, or what is kind of your process on establishing that, getting to know the organization, figuring out your way, and then start executing?
Yeah, so first, the key thing is understanding what's going on, because a lot of times there are underlying opportunities or things going on that aren't officially called a partnership program, but are good indicators of how it's organically going to work. Yeah. So understanding and also assessing how mature that company is in terms of partnerships. Maybe they already have 10 relationships that are driving revenue and they just don't call them partners, or maybe they've never spoken to a third party before. So assessing where they are and understanding what stage they're coming from and where the building needs to start. And then the second, I think, would be more of an opportunity identifying. So that is partly understanding where the opportunities lie. There's a lot of data in companies that typically aren't necessarily obvious, but seeing, okay, why did we lose deals? Are customers requesting functionality or services? Where do we say no to customers? These sorts of things. Yep. And understanding where those opportunities are in the organization, and then also looking outwards. Who are we playing with? What does the customer ecosystem look like? All of those external factors, let's say. Yep. And then finally establishing a plan. So executing comes next, but it's usually a question of how that's going to look like, because depending on the opportunity, you may say, okay, we actually want to focus on building integrations with technology partners. We really want to dive into the CRM use case and partner with all the CRMs, and that's where we're going to focus. Or you may say, okay, forget the integrations for a while. We really want to go deep with these 3 agencies who have a very specific service proposition, or we are seeing traction in the German market, but we don't have any delivery capacity. So let's focus our partnerships on the German market, for example. So it can be any option, and that's also okay. That's also part of choosing the right partnership model for the organization and prioritizing it effectively. And then, basically just putting the steps in motion of whatever needs to be done. And actually a new thing that I'm now working on is also a sort of recruitment aspect. So it used to be me doing all the work, but eventually, even when I'm putting things in motion and I'm hands-on, which a lot of SaaS companies are always afraid of externals, that they just are going to be left with a PowerPoint. Exactly. But no, definitely very hands-on work. But at the end of the day, with partnerships, it's all about relationships. Yeah. So you do eventually have to have somebody in-house. Maybe it's not a partner manager, but more than often it is, because you have a volume of relationships that needs a full-time person. So then I will actually help them source, recruit, hire, onboard the right person with the right profile. Because of course, a commercial agency partner manager is also not the same as a strategic technology partner manager. So that's quite different, and helping them be set up for success rather than just thrown off the deep end.
Exactly.
Like many of us have been in the past.
Exactly. No, that makes sense. So, because I'm curious then, because I think it's really good, because like also ultimately you're fractional, you're going to leave at some point, right? So you need something behind, like now KaraLynn's gone and everything is gone, everything we worked for.
That's not what we want.
No, exactly. So obviously it needs to close with some form of recruitment, that somebody takes the reins and runs the partnership program from there. And like, I wonder what are typically roles that you would like to leave behind? Like, when you leave a nice job, you've built something for a few months and it runs and it brings revenue, it brings at least like first signs of good results. when do you feel like, okay, I can leave this in capable hands? Like, what kind of recruitments could you have done? Is that like a single partnership manager, or is that like a team, or,
Depends on the volume. I would say there's not necessarily a need to hire a full team when you only have a few partners. And it would be then that kind of partner manager's job to simply grow what is there and expand. And then that person set up already with a strategy, with the right KPIs, with the right sort of mentality, let's say, and the right resources on the other side within the organization, the alignment there. That's a very important aspect. So typically it's one person is enough from the get-go, and then that will expand. But it's also interesting how partnership teams can be set up, because sometimes you have, for example, more agency versus technology distribution. This is when companies are a bit more mature. But there's also, I actually was having a really interesting conversation yesterday about this, the stages of partner development. So for example, in a company, you have sales, customer success, sometimes even, post-sales growth and SDRs, this sort of things. And that is similar to a partner life cycle as well. I mean, partner managers are expected to work with all types of partners, source them, call them, have those strategic conversations, train them, market with them, and then also manage the pipeline. So there's also, a possibility for those partner teams to be separated into more of the acquisition focus and onboarding and these sorts of things, getting it to stage one, and then the other type, maybe partner success managers, are stage two. But again, that's a more mature phase once you have enough volume to actually warrant that type of team.
Okay, cool. Because one thing I also found interesting about like partnership teams is sometimes you have the role partner marketing manager, if I said it correctly. And to me, that always exists kind of in two ways. Like on one hand, you want to do marketing, so you recruit partners. It helps with recruitment. But on the other hand, it's also a role that's very driven around providing the partners with the tools to do marketing on your behalf. So how do you see that? And is that role split, or is one of the two not really done, or should be done more? Or? I
would say the most important thing for partner marketing is actually on the partner, like post-partner acquisition side. Because again, I mean, partner acquisition and recruitment is important, but you don't necessarily want to be attracting partners like you do customers. Because, with customers, you want good quality, but volume is the most important thing. Whereas for partners, you really want to make sure that you're investing in those relationships, and marketing isn't always the most effective way to do that. However, on the other side of things, if you're marketing effectively with your partners, that means that you are both making more revenue together, which is the main thing that everybody is going to judge the success of your partnership on. So I think that enablement piece, that co-marketing effort is definitely where the priority should be for those types of roles.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting feedback. Thank you. I never thought of it that way, to be honest. I think it's really good. And I think it's one of those things that, I mean, it's the same with customer marketing. Not a lot of companies do marketing on their existing customers, right? It's just underappreciated or not really seen, like how much revenue that can drive or how much churn it can prevent as well. So it's interesting that it works kind of similar than for partnerships.
I kind of look at it as a way that partners should, I mean, again, one partner manager does all of these things, but partnerships can actually mirror the sort of life cycle of a company as well, because you have to have, as I said, the strategy side, the marketing side, the sales side, the success side. So if you look at all of those life cycle stages, there should be a partner aspect that's also mirrored.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. That's good. So then I have another thing, like, I don't know if you heard the term AI.
What?
Yeah,
no, never. That's a new one.
I'll Google it later for you so you can read it. But like, one of the things AI is causing is like a whole bunch of new startups, a whole bunch of AI startups. 90% of these appear to be ChatGPT wrappers, right? They just take the existing code, put new packaging on it, call it a SaaS solution or an AI solution. So, it's going to be... some might be good, right? I'm not saying all of them are. No, there are some really interesting ones rising up. But one of the things is happening is it's flooding the market. And the customers are, all companies in every industry are having an overdose on what kind of solution they need to choose for whatever the problem they have. So, I'm thinking partnerships in the coming ages or the coming whatever years will be extra more important, because I think, proving yourself new as a new logo, as an existing logo even, that you're still the best or you're now the best in this new age, amongst other 10,000 claiming to be the same thing that wrote the code in a weekend with vibe coding or whatever, I'm assuming that, proving that you're the best is going to be extra hard through your outbound channels, through every channel. But partners might be the ones that actually can speak on your behalf because they tested the software. They have some actual authority over that message, and they're not you, right? Because obviously you say it, but if somebody else says it on your behalf, the message is a bit more powerful. So what do you think partnership programs will do? Will they rise up even further in this age of AI? Is it still equally relevant or even more relevant? What's going to happen to partnerships?
Yeah, I think it's definitely, of course, even more relevant every day.
Of course. You're not biased, right?
Never. No, but I do think that, for partnerships in terms of our field or discipline, I think there will be hopefully a lot better data, because partnerships has been, in the past sort of seen as you can't really actually get any numbers from it. You can't really see that data. So I also hope that we will get ever more better with the accuracy and the ability also to automate, for example, research, even tasks like getting enablement materials up and running, all of that sort of stuff. So I think partnerships will be able to be run more efficiently. Partnerships are also traditionally a resource-starved area. So that will hopefully help us in a sort of entrepreneurial way to be able to drive those partnerships more effectively. But in its essence, partnerships is also a relationship thing. As much as you can use AI to automate things, that trust that is built through a partnership that really drives a partnership and makes it work together successfully, that's something that is developed between humans. So while AI might help us manage those relationships more effectively and efficiently, the relationship itself is always going to be on a human level. And so therefore partnerships become, very, very important. And as well for customers, you think about all of the information that we are already flooded with. You're going to be listening to the person that's standing next to you because you can see it, you can feel it, you can trust, again, that their recommendation or whatever it may be is going to be the right one for you. So partnerships, again, become very important. But I think sometimes people say like outbound is dead or marketing is dead or whatever.
A lot of claims.
A lot of claims, but I don't think that anything needs to die. I think that it's actually better. And again, maybe a partnership person coming out in me, but it's better if you team up the efforts. Like if I look at an outbound engine and a partnerships engine turned in opposite directions, that makes me very sad, because then I see outbound people knocking on doors with no information and no introduction. And then I see partnerships teams saying, I have nobody to help me, business develop or follow up on all these introductions that my customer or that my partners are making me. So I think that if you pair partnerships and actually let partnerships not be the leading part of the organization, but actually the supporting part of the organization, that pair actually makes it so much stronger as a company. And then, nobody has to worry about being dead.
No, exactly. Okay, that's fair enough. No, I think that absolutely makes sense. So it will continue to rise. And I think, one of the things in outbound has always been multi-threading, right? There was a lot of times you see, like you say, like, cold calling is dead, cold emails is dead, LinkedIn messages, everything is dead. It's like one big graveyard on LinkedIn always. What I was going to say with that actually is like, I think one of the answers is always multi-threading has been good. And I think partnerships is one of the ways to multi-thread because it adds to your outbound. But also partners themselves are multi-threading because your message comes from different people, which is a similar channel, but it says the same thing more than once, and everybody knows, like, if you hear if I tell you this afternoon about, like, I heard about this cool SaaS tool that's popping up, it's like you heard it once from me, but then you go home and then somebody else says, I saw this, I tried this thing out in the last weekend, and it's the second time, then it's gonna ring a bell. And I think that's what partnerships in itself is, a multi-threading platform.
Exactly, it's the network effect.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really putting those touch points, but not in a line.
No,
in a network.
Exactly, and I'm very much a believer that that's going to that relevance is going to increase when there's so much individual messages spread out in the coming years. So I'm expecting a heavy rise. But I'm also expecting like different things. I might be less integration partners because there's so many things we can do with like, I mean, Zapier was one thing, but now there's new versions of that, right? So,
yeah, exactly.
So, maybe less. Do you still think there will be technology partners, for instance?
Yes, as long as there are different technology providers, there will be technology partners.
Okay.
Because I think anybody, I mean, if you cast the net really wide, there's competitors, which should be a hopefully small group. There's customers who pay you for it. And then there's partners. So those partners can be anybody in your ether. And you just have to make sure to choose the ones that you want to align with. Yeah. So it may not be an integration necessarily, but there will always be opportunity for other technologies to work together, to help each other, to complement each other in those ways. So the partnership landscape in terms of how we partner may look a little bit different, but I think, as long as there's peers, there will always be a chance for partnerships. You can play nice as long as there's others in the room.
Okay, cool. Well, that concludes like the formal content part, but I wonder, one thing is like, do you have any practical advice? Like I'm assuming there's many people that are currently postponing their partner track for the third year in a row. Like, oh, let's do it next year because acquisition was again not according to budget or whatever. Like something else needs focus again. What is like a practical advice? Just get started, or like how can you easily get started?
Yeah, I think that, postponing it, just remember that if in 3 years you want it now, it's never going to happen. Yeah. So if you're going to want it at some point, remember to give yourself a lot of lead time. And that doesn't mean, hiring a full partnership team all at once. So the practical tips that I would use are, first of all, set your expectations correctly. So actually don't necessarily look at revenue as your leading indicator, because the revenue will come after you lay the groundwork. That's why partnerships is that upfront investment. So look for other things. And the things that I would really tell the beginner company to look for is just see, where do you say no to customers? Or perhaps also, where do customers say no to you? Are you missing a feature? Are you having to say no custom development for you customers? Like, our limits are here. Where are your limits? And then find the companies that can allow you to say yes to those customers. Your customer is going to be happier and you are going to be happier because you're going to form a partnership.
Yeah.
And the third as well is looking at your customer's ecosystem. So actually, who are they working with? Who are they listening to? Where are they getting their information? Who else are they, using in terms of their tech stack? Really look at what they're doing, and you will begin to see trends. Yeah. And those are then where you can start to lay the groundwork for that foundation. And then make the decision eventually to invest. And if those don't work, you can always feel free to call me.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, but that's really nice. And what are like KPIs you can set? So when you start out with the partnership program, you decided like, we're going to give it the good old college try. I think one of the mistakes people make is they're not giving it a good old college try. They're giving it like, what do you call a kiddie school try? Like, let's test the waters a bit. Like, I typically see that doesn't work. You either go big or go home is the saying, I think. I don't know. But what can people do to see if the potential is there? So not give it the good try, but like the small thing. Or is it, like you say, like because one of the things you do when you enter is you kind of see what kind of partnership programs might already exist that they don't call it that way. How can they look for them maybe to see if there could be potential for it?
Yeah, so I would say that you mean KPIs of how they can evaluate the success of their partnership program. So I would say, revenue is always there. You can always look for it because you might get a few bucks in there at the beginning. Yes. But I would really look for more qualitative evaluations of your partnership. So first of all, do you have an idea of who you're going to be looking for, of who is going to be successful? How many of those partners are you engaging with on a regular basis? And then even deeper, what kind of activities are you doing? Or how many activities are you doing with those partners? Are you account mapping with them? How many joint customers do you have with them? How many meetings have you gone to together? Yeah. These sorts of things. How many maybe events have you done together to try to showcase and drive leads together with that partners? And then as you start getting those sort of baseline relationship KPIs settled, then you can move more into the revenue focused leads, opportunities, closed deals. So partner influenced is always the word that is used, and then move into partner sourced revenue. And I think one really interesting KPI that is not widely used yet, but is partner attribution rate. So I heard of one company actually kind of radically saying our partner attribution rate is going to be 100%. And partner attribution means deals or customers that are touched by a partner.
Yeah.
So that means that if this customer came direct and they didn't need anything, how can we bring a partner in there? And that way you're really infusing your partner network with value.
That's cool.
And that's going to make your partnership community more engaged, because you're focusing on bringing them business as opposed to the other way around. So that's, again, a little bit radical. So try bringing that one in the boardroom, but it is definitely, I think.
Said that about MR though, right? So that's fine.
Exactly, yeah. But those are ones that I would look for sure.
Wow, that's really cool. So I thank you again for all this wisdom. I'm super proud that you... Fun fact, KaraLynn was the first one that proactively asked us about our partnership agreement and, how do we work with leads and things like that. And the rest was like, I just kind of had to proactively tell them. So I love I already felt the partnership coming from you there.
Yes, it's in my blood.
Exactly. And I'm really happy you're part of the gang. But give partnership advisory a call if you're stuck on any kind of, if you just want to get started, but you have the other 5 things to prioritize, but you still want to do that one thing. I think KaraLynn is that combination of gets the execution out of the way whilst also doing the strategic. So combining the PowerPoint with the actual email box, or I don't know we need to find you a Google slogan or something.
Strategy, execution, talent.
Love it. That's good.
My 3 pillars. Yeah.
That's very good. That's really strong. No, that's why you call KaraLynn. Thanks again for your time. Thanks for moving to the Netherlands.
Happy to be here. Thanks for welcoming me.
Cool. Then we'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks.